what this video is going to entail is a walk around of the new LiftMaster industrial line of gate operators that we'll be introducing this summer. The new line will introduce brushless DC technology from LiftMaster into this segment, where we're going to focus on that long-term durability, security, and continuous duty. As you know from our other offerings, continuous duty is very important, and we did not necessarily have that on the other industrial segment. So our focus is to hold true to what is the industrial segment. What does it mean? It's that heavy-duty enclosure, which this is very familiar in terms of familiar to what the SL595 is, and we'll go through a little bit more detail. All the other updates that we have from brushless DC technology that we can put into this operator now, and also support those longer, heavier gates in this segment. We will be introducing 2 SKUs this summer. It will be, the first one will be the IHSL24UL, which will be up to 5,500 pound capability. And then we'll also have the second SKU coming out later this summer, which will be the INSL24UL, that will be up to 2,200 pounds. But one thing I do want to note is during the development of new operator, we didn't necessarily want to design something completely new. We wanted to take what was good with the existing line of the SL585 and 595, find out what it was missing, and then add to it and change it. For example, eliminating a lot of the setup requirements and maintenance, brake adjustment, for example, and things like that. And then obviously we talked about the BLDC drive system, what it brings in. So we're looking to bring in all those different aspects into this new operator and not forgetting about what is the good features and benefits of the existing operators as well. All right, everyone, we are planning to go through the cabinet itself and what this really means, and whenever we talk about an industrial grade cabinet. One thing I do want to note is just we really try to, in terms of development, is pay attention to detail the cabinet as well. So what this is, it's a 14 gauge steel cabinet. It's NEMA 3R rated, which is going to be a little bit of a higher grade cabinet compared to some other products, such as a tool cabinet, for example, sometimes can be 18 or 20 gauge steel. So you'll notice this feeling it, how much more stout it is. It's got 2 steel latches that are built on the side, or built in it, as you can see here, that have through holes to be able to lock it. As I open up the cabinet door, you'll notice that there is a seal around the cabinet to make sure that there is that NEMA 3R rating. But we also utilize and leveraged a lot of the SL595 cabinet itself to learn what was good, what was bad, but also more importantly is dimensions. This particular cabinet is going to have the same depth. It's the same width as the SL595 to make sure we have that retrofitable aspect to it as well. Once we open up the cabinet, we start getting into it and start looking with what is in the product itself. The one thing that you'll notice is this very heavy 1/4 inch steel plate that is the actual chassis itself. And one reason why that is so thick is that provides all the stability, and it's basically like the chassis of your car or truck, and it is connected directly to where it would mount to a post. As we start looking through the cabinet, you'll see how everything is open, and what is designed to do is make sure that it's easy to install, and there's no real issue in terms of trying to figure out where the wires go. As you can notice, we really took the care to make sure all the wire within the cabinet is not necessarily just a bird's nest of information, or a bird's nest of wires rather. We wanted to make sure that everything is clear and it's easy to get to, and that's where you'll start to see some familiarity. All these boards should be very familiar to you as you look at it. We use the same control board, expansion boards, the secondary terminal block. Those are all standard LiftMaster product, and it should be very familiar. The other aspect that we started to get into in terms of the design of the product is, and this is where we started to listen, and we started to really hear what were good and bad about the SL595. And one thing that we did hear about the SL595 is drilling directly through the cabinet to put in the input wiring, output controls, and that's where we have these 2 removable plates. We basically allow them to be completely removable, so you can just run wiring in and out, or if you want to take them somewhere else and have them drilled through to get exactly what you need in terms of sizing. There's 2 of these on the cabinet itself. The other thing that we heard is the wiring diagram. Usually we have something in the product in terms of a basically a poster where you pull out the wiring diagram, and that can get lost. So we just want one step further. We just put it on a label, and it's permanently affixed to the operator itself, and it never can be lost. And it's easily, once you open it up, you can obviously reference it as you're referencing what's in the cabinet itself. The other thing about the industrial market is we hear a lot that there needs to be a strong manual release. So instead of having some type of mix of cable operator or anything else, this is all mechanically operated, where I pull this out, it's released, it pulls a pin out of the gearbox, to back engage it, I just push down on a lever, it flips forward, and now the pin goes back into the gearbox and it's re-engaged. Very simple, very easy to do, very robust. Another aspect that we're allowed with this cabinet and the design of it, and actually design of the whole components within, is it's literally about 100 pounds lighter than the SL595. That was one thing that we heard a lot of feedback, is just how heavy the old SL585s and 595s are. So we were able to get significantly lighter to the point where maybe it's a one-person install. From the other aspect of it, as you look into it, you can obviously see there's a lot of room. You don't need to mount anything outside of it because we have room for the 3-phase transformer. We have room for 33 amp hour batteries. We have room for a heater. We have room for all those components to be mounted within the cabinet. Again, and it's sealed from the weather, and it's still easy to work on where all those components are out of the way. So we just really focused on the cabinet itself, not being too large, being dimensionally similar to SL595, but then also room for all the components within and very easy to work on. In this segment, we'll go through LiftMaster's BLDC drive system in a little bit more detail. As you probably are familiar with, we released that system on the HD line of product of DC pad operators. Now we're bringing it into the industrial line, this very highly efficient system. So what are those benefits? First, the DC system now supports continuous duty for this segment of industrial line gate operators, and then also we have battery backup capability. Those were two specific issues that did come up significantly in terms of the amount of feedback we got. Existing product only has a certain amount of time, or rather how many cycles it can do per time. This continuous duty, it can operate as much as needed. Also in terms of battery backup, as we start to hear more about input on the industrial line operators where some places might have a secondary circuit. On these units, we need to have it all contained, that when power does go down, there is the ability of still operating the gate itself. You don't have to put a person out there, which can cost thousands of dollars. Plus, these gates are massive, 5,500 pound gates. The amount of benefits that we can provide in terms of soft start and soft stop, not only on the operator itself, but on the whole system. With these big gates and hitting it with all that energy and stopping and starting a significant amount of wear and tear. And that was really important as we heard more about that. The other thing is on BLDC, now we can offer that variable speed control. Variable speed goes from 6 inches to 12 inches per second. It is something that you'll notice when looking at the board itself, how much the board is, and is in fact the exact same board as what you'll see in the HD operator as well. So it's following along what is our standard LiftMaster product with the expansion board, the control board, and other components within this operator is going to look very similar, and it is very similar to what those operators have. Also, you may notice that this has a new motor drive board. This is currently exclusive to the industrial line of product. What this board is obviously to drive the motor itself, but it's a LiftMaster design board, manufactured board, and software and everything is within this board that we control to make sure that it can take the high energy requirements of the industrial line. We're proud of this board and what we've been able to do with it, and also this gives us a lot more capability in terms of variable speed and other aspects in terms of driving the motor itself. I want to take a moment to talk about the LiftMaster gearbox that we specified for the new industrial line of gate operators. With a brushless DC system, the motor is going to be spinning at a certain speed, so we need to make sure that the gearbox brings that down to move the gate safely at a certain speed as well. So in this gearbox, it's a 40-to-1 ratio, but one thing to focus on the gearbox itself is the teeth and the gears. These were specified by LiftMaster because we knew that an industrial line gate operator is going to go through a significant amount of wear and tear, long years of service. So we want to make sure that this gearbox is stout enough to take that. And one thing that we specified is the teeth themselves and how smooth that those teeth need to be. And when they come together and come apart, that is going to be an opportunity for a lot of wear. The other thing is the teeth themselves, the material used. In terms of trying to make sure that we have that long-term durability with this product, we specified a specific material that is a much higher grade than you might see in a standard gearbox in this segment. With the features that we put into this gearbox, it will have the robustness and durability to last a long time, just like our operators themselves. One goal with the new line of industrial gate operators was to make it retrofittable. That's a huge market that happens a lot with these gate operators as they do get replaced. So we're coming out with this new riser stand. The part number is MRIN. And what this is intended to do is much more drop-in capability. We've already talked about drop-in capability with an SL595 because the cabinet's essentially the same size in terms of width and being able to be post-mountable. But what happens if you have a pad mount situation or an SL585 that could be pad or post-mount? That's where this part comes in. It's very easy to install in terms of it's very capable of adjustment. You can lay the operator on top, adjust the second bracket. It bolts to the same chassis component within the cabinet itself, so it's very strong and capable in terms of how it's bolted in. The other thing is you'll notice it's very stout. With our gate operators having the ability of going up to 5,500 pounds, we wanted to make sure that it was strong. So this is heavy and stout and a lot of welded joints. Also, it does have the ability of having a front plate to cover up the front of it and much more cleaner look where it'll line up with the gate operator itself. And finally, talking about pad and post mount of an SL585. 585s can be post mounted. This comes with brackets where the post on one side will be on the inside, the post on the other side will be on the outside. You'll use the supplied brackets and it'll mount up. And then for a pad mount situation where you have a concrete pad, there are locations here where if you have the studs coming out of the concrete ground, it can bolt straight into those locations as well. So this new riser will allow not only post mounting capability in terms of an SL585, but pad mounting as well for people who want a variety of ways to mount the new line of industrial gate operators. Thank you for joining and going through the new slide gate operators from LiftMaster.